Hey, this is Russ Baden with Role Playing Public Radio, and this is RPPR episode 82. Back that story up. And with me, not as always, is Caleb and Aaron, because Tom had to go out of town to...
Tom is dead. All hail the new Tom.
All right. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about backstories and motivation for players and player characters. And just because why is your imaginary elf in your magical elf game wanting to stab that orc? Is it self-preservation, revenge, or a tragic case of badly misapplied dinner etiquette?
They killed his parents, Ross.
Yeah.
They always kill your parents.
Yeah, they do.
Parenthood, little known fact, is the number one cause of death in all RPGs.
And
you have
children's
spawn,
literature.
And then your village is instantly burned.
Yeah, it's kind of like children's literature.
Or it could actually be for the other particular reason, which is, as always, graph paper sex. You can't beat that.
All right. So before we begin, we're going to be talking get a little news out of the way. First off, for the Base Raider backers and everyone else, their Pariah, the short story I promised as part of it, is finally out. Of course, due to the I had planned to get it out last month, but because of the holidays, getting the proofreading back and the cover art and everything, got a little delayed. But it's out. Base Raider backers should be able to download it to this from the same place you got the preview actual play episodes. I'll send, of course, a message. You will have a message in Kickstarter by the time you hear this, and everyone else, those of you who did not back the Base Raiders Kickstarter,
shame on you.
Well, if you were gone, if you were out adventuring in the real world,
He was on for a month.
Yeah.
Who doesn't check their computer for a month anymore? Wake up and smell the Ethernet connection, okay?
I'm generous, and you can buy the story on the as an ebook on Amazon or Smashwords as a ebook for $2.99. So it's about 10,000 words and talks. It's about two base raiders that raid a base. So
Really?
yeah, I know it's pretty. What a twist, as M. Night Shyamalan would say. Second up in the news section, I'm relaunching Raillery.tv as a video game actual play podcast and show. And by podcast, not really podcast, just a YouTube channel. But I finally figured out how to record 1080 HD video game footage from Fraps. So we've already got some stuff from Dead Rising 2 and a freeware game called The Corridor, and we'll have stuff from Sub Rosa, and I think I know I'll be getting Aliens Colonial Marines when that comes out, Dead Space 3, and all this other good stuff. So keep an eye out for that. So but the big news is No Evil. And Caleb, do you want to talk a little bit about this, about the fan art or the fan contest?
So the guys made the best Christmas present ever, and they commissioned a portrait movie poster style thing of all their PCs from the game and gave it to me for Christmas. And so Ross and I got to thinking, and we're going to run a fan contest, and the prizes will be for the best entries, the top three, you said?
Yeah, top three.
Top three best entries will be signed copies of the No Evil poster, which will be slowly revealed with each new No Evil episode. We'll get a new character every week.
Yeah.
And so
every episode.
Yeah. It could be anything every episode that's posted, sorry. And it could be anything you want. It could be fan art. It could be fan fiction.
Fan sculpture.
Sculpture.
I would be impressed.
You could cosplay as
I would be,
top hat wearing octopus with samurai swords.
Be a good runner.
R-rated or below.
Yeah. No. We
is the only rule.
I know there's rule. I know, but we know about Rule 34, but not for the purposes of this contest.
Thank you.
Yeah, no Rule 34, and
no full on Cyrock action, please. We do not need to see that.
Cyrock is the only exception.
I will back that. I will challenge exception accepted. So. So as he compiled slowly into her kernel, there was a logic fault.
Hot.
Anyways, and if you did something like that in total techno speak, that you would be in good play, for a runner up at least. The contest will go for the conclusion. It will end on the day after I post the last episode of No Evil, which I don't have the full schedule yet, but we're going to do Slightly faster update schedule this spring for RPPR actual play. We're going to do one new episode every 5 days, and instead of being like it's previously been it'd been like one shot, no evil, new Arcadia. Now we're going to do one shot, no evil, new Arcadia, and then go back. So there'll be 6 episodes per month. There'll be 2 episodes of No Evil, 2 episodes of New Arcadia, and 2 one-shots. So that, hopefully, you actual play fiends can mainline that into your brain.
Did you hear that, listeners? You may survive to hear the end.
Yeah, well, mine apocalypse didn't happen, so I'm feeling pretty good about...
but we're looking for the next apocalypse to happen. So.
Eat healthy, wear your seatbelt.
Yeah. Don't worry about
may make it.
that 2012 was the warmest year on record for the United States. Don't worry about the global warming apocalypse. That's at least a generation away, so we're fine.
Stock up on MREs.
Yeah.
Learn to tread water.
So, and if you have any questions about that, I'll try and post some more detailed rules on the forums. Oh, international submissions are definitely accepted. I'd be happy to mail it out to wherever you are in the world, assuming it's not North Korea, because I don't think they have that over there. Mail, I don't think they have that.
If you're our North Korean fan base,
you got a poster.
Good for you.
Keep fighting the good fight.
You are risking death for something completely inconsequential.
It matters. It matters to Bartleby.
Well, Human Rights Watch is also on the internet. So you might want to look into that.
Did you take a left on the internet when you meant to get to... Yeah. All right.
And also to all other demographics that we have inadvertently insulted over the years, please come in, because we would, and do this contest, we would really like to have you.
We're sorry.
We are terribly sorry.
I'm a horrible monster, and I think it's rubbing off on everyone else. So, except Aaron. Aaron's the good one, and Tom is the worst of them all because he's not here. Thinks he can sneak away to Seattle before we record an episode for the month. I see how it is. All right.
He didn't sneak away. He pretty well broadcasted it.
Yeah, no, he didn't.
It's you don't listen, Ross.
I listen.
Okay,
I just
you listen to the voices in your head. Is what you listen to.
Poorly, but I listened. So anyway, backstories, motivations. Let's talk about that stuff. 'Cause that was a great segue.
Seamless.
Prime time, here I come. So the way I started thinking about this is, just playing in a couple games, I was just wondering, why do players do certain things in games? And, it started making me think about motivation and backstory. So, I mean, there's sort of 3 layers that you have to think about at any given time in a game. First off, it's the player motivation. And we all know players have different motivations. Why are you here to play a game? What is your goal here to play the game? Obviously, it's to have fun, but how do you have fun? And, we've talked about this before, and we all know that there are different archetypes of players. There's the guy who just wants to win, there's the guy who's just there because, hey, everybody else is here and there's free food. So let's, all right. And then there's and then we can go into the various archetypes, forever. But, so that's one level. And then below that is the player character motivation. And that's, that comes into conflict sometimes where I am playing a headstrong barbarian. And while me, the player, knows that's a dumbass decision to charge the orc hordes by myself, I'm still going to do it. So there's that. So there's 2 separate things. And then finally there's backstory, which informs, player character motivation, which is the reason why your barbarian does this, because he is an orphan, parents killed by orcs. So, because obviously all player characters. Always. Just like the band Dragon Sound in Miami Connection, all player characters are orphans.
I think at orc headquarters, there's just a klaxon alarm when someone conceives. And a big board lights up and they're like, we have to go there now.
Yeah.
They must be very busy.
Well, I'm also imagining a roulette table somewhere in the Elven Highlands. They said, a new orc is born. Your parents are gone. Smiths of 255 West Street. Have a nice day.
No, I bet it's an orc Cub Scout merit badge. You have to orphan a human child if you want to become, eagle, giant eagle scout, Phoenix Scout, whatever. I don't know what.
Scar the mind of our future slayer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, so first off, let's talk about this. Player motivations. Just share your own first. What motivates you as a player at a game table?
I think when you pick your player motivations, if you've been playing a while, that you should definitely pick something that is within something you're going to find fun to play.
Right.
Not necessarily your comfort zone.
Well, I mean, like, you as a player, why?
Oh, my play? Why do I play role-playing games?
Yeah, what is your player motivation? At the game table, what are you trying to do?
Oh, what am I trying to do? Not think about work. Dream world of magic. Just basic escapism stuff. But at the same time, like, my escapism tends to be in more gritty, I suppose, as people might assess. So, like, it can't be just gonzo Star Wars-ism. It's but I want a good story because I want to focus on that and not other things.
Yeah, all right. So, Aaron, what about you?
Pretty much it goes along with Caleb's reasoning of escapism, too. It's just a fun thing to do, and of course, it also is challenging just because you're trying to essentially storyboard on the spot. It's like you're creating this world right now with another group of people and bouncing ideas left and right for it's like what is essentially just a group writing activity. Except again, it's done very fast for the most part, and it's a challenge to be coming up with that, especially for somebody like me whose brain is running 500 miles a minute half the time and cannot get the words out, as RPPR fans know. But in any case...
And what they've come to expect.
True. But also, it's now the challenge after, again, playing with you guys for so long, just because you've seen me from the beginning that I usually play idealized goody-goods half the time just because that's who I want to be. But it's also for the fun of now stretching out to see what else I can do just for the villainous roles and to really expand how I can actually work in that. So, again, just for more or less for the fun of it.
Yeah.
What about you, Ross?
Tell us.
For me, for games, I always want to see... There's kind of like, the game designer part where I want to see how a game actually works. I always want to, break it down. Like, if you study film for a while, you don't watch the movie, you analyze how they edit it while you're watching the movie. So it's the same kind of thing for me. And so there's that aspect of it. And then obviously there's the escapism thing. I mean, it's fun. And for me, it's also trying to do something that hasn't been done in a particular game before, trying to see something new or some kind of story or conflict that I haven't seen before. So, taking stupid risks or doing something unusual or playing a different type of character. For me, novelty is like a big driving factor in a role-playing game, trying to do something that I haven't done before. So that's motivating me, specifically from game to game, I think. Not just the grand overall thing, but like at a particular game table at a particular time. That's why, my last character, No Evil, was playing, super, ultra-violent, assassin type, and now in Better Angels I'm going to play someone very different. So
I find myself wanting to do the same thing, even though I haven't played nearly as long as everybody else here. I think there are other motivations as well. I think, from the game designer perspective, I think that's in there. I think other people don't try to take it that far, but they still like to take it apart. And so the power gamer is really just wants reactive statistical analysis. It's, optimal build. I think that's a lot of reasons some people go to the player. I think some people want to be useful to the group.
Yeah.
I think some people want to make characters that save the day at the right moment, even though they're not hogging the spotlight.
Or try and grease over tensions in the group or whatever. Like the one guy who always played cleric or whatever, whoever is going to play the utility character that nobody else wants to do. The useful
guy.
I'll do that so we won't have to argue about who has to be.
Yeah, I think that's I want to be helpful. I think some people like to hold court. I try and catch myself doing that when I do, but I think there's some people who just want to make everybody laugh at the table regardless of what's going on.
I think there are players that want to have the limelight, some or most of the time. But then there's the heal bot utility guys. They want to be away from the spotlight as much. There's sort of a reactive versus active kind of thing. So they're and those kind of feed into your decisions for what type of player characters you get. But so outside of pre-generated characters you do in one shots, you usually have a choice of how you what your player character's motivations are. You know, you get to choose whether you're going to be the revenge-driven orphan or the
what monster from the manual killed your family.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you have a cornucopia of choices,
right? But I mean, with player character motivation, I think the challenge is, you know, for a lot of people is like, how do you interpret that? A lot of people seem to think that like there's only one interpretation of how that particular character type would act in a given situation, when you can come up with a dozen different types of interpretations for, like, even the headstrong barbarian might be like, might not charge the orcs directly if he like, oh, well, wait, I know there's, I'll go get the wizard because he has fireball spells and he can kill more of them faster, or I'll go get the burning oil, or I'll go flank them, you know, or I'll, you know, try and trick them or something like that.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to actually fall into that actual niche that you can actually expand a little bit outwards.
I think a lot of people seem to think that your motivations as player characters lock you into certain decisions, and that you cannot possibly do anything else other than what you think is the one. You know what I mean? There's only one interpretation, and unless your character's motivation to kill Lord Zardoz no matter what, and as soon as Lord Zardoz shows up, yeah, well, you got to kill him. But you know, other than that, you don't have to like.
He's a giant floating head that pukes guns. You're not going to win.
Well, that's, you know, he could be delusional. Player characters can dream, can't they?
Sean Connery lives inside him in a Speedo. You're doomed.
But that's not, even if that's your obsession, you're not going to, like, you know, that's not going to inform your decision on whether to haggle with the storekeeper for, you know, or to shoot the storekeeper. It's not like going to doom your character to predestination. A lot of people, think it's predestination.
And that's actually one of the reasons, at least concerning something like D&D, I really never liked the alignment charts, just because that seemed really to lock you into what you were supposed to play. And again, most people, especially if you're only beginning to play, it can seem kind of confusing, saying, oh, this is the path you have to follow, these are the strict set of rules that you have to go for. If it doesn't work out that way, then you're obviously going against your character type, and you are worried that the game master is obviously going to punish you.
Well, they don't really say like what the specific rules are. They say what your character believes and doesn't believe in. But like, again, that's open to interpretation. Outside of the paladin, of course, you know, the paladin was dealing with a specific code of conduct, like tithe to the church or something like that. That's pretty black and white. But.
Yeah, and in certain cases, like when we did the Dark Sun campaign, I still chose a lawful good character, but essentially I made him into just the gritty Punisher version of a lawful good.
Well, I mean, that's a good
Granted, it was Dark Sun, but still.
I mean, that's a good example because, like, I remember in the Dark Sun campaign early on, there was, like, a situation where, like, I think, Caleb, maybe you have better memory of this, like, burning the bodies or having to get rid of them or something like that. Aaron took a stand on that. Do you remember?
I just remember him, like, trying to murder Jason for stealing something or something like. I mean, it was.
Do you remember
one of umpteen million times he tried to murder Jason?
Yeah.
What I think of when I'm hearing you talk about this is Preston in No Evil, because when Tom first rolled him up and he's like a human loving, human appeasing octopus, I thought it was just Tom's typical I want to be a monster but not, you know, role play octopus physiology or go with the uplift thing. Which is, you know, in the book, it's uplifts are, you know, the great persecuted masses. They're the stand-in for all minorities in modern society. And I thought he was just, you know, skipping that for but it turned out to be really intriguing across the campaign because, well, he did start that way. He eventually had to shift. But at the same time, he was never a fanatic, and he kind of looked down on that, and it kind of grounded his character. So, yeah, he played against type, and I think he did it intentionally, and it worked. So, at the same time, you know, you don't want to go to metagaming levels where your barbarian suddenly knows how to read that magic scroll and banish Dagon or whatever. But, yeah.
Yeah. But because then, the PC motivations always come from backstory, and that's sort of like, you know, what the episode's about. You know, I know before the show we were talking sort of about like there's kind of you mentioned there's sort of a spectrum of backstory, and the backstory there's no. I think we all agree that there's no one golden rule for backstory in a game. I know you know there's not like too much or too little for backstory.
I think that spectrum has no end.
Yeah.
Like, there are people who roll in and it's like, we're playing a game? Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be Numbers McDice. And play stuff.
How do you know Numbers McDice is a fine knight of the realm?
And then there's other people that, like, will start a blog and write an 80-page novella about everything their character did before the 5-game campaign. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it has an end. It's a ray, not a line. Like, in both directions. So, yeah.
But yeah, but there's no one point on that line that says like this is where everyone should be for regardless of game or genre or whatever.
Definitely.
else. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's kind of the thing that the thing is a lot of people think that more is better, and you know a lot of those 80-page backstories they just go on and on and on. But like, one, not everyone's going to read them, and two, you know, is that going to help? Is that going to really make your playing better?
Yeah, not necessarily, especially if you run into the problem that if you set up this elaborate backstory and then even if you give it to the GM, he or she may not actually use that into it. It's a detail that might not even come up. So, and unfortunately, in that case, you might feel that was wasted effort, or that your character is not getting the kind of attention that you wanted it to, just because that's like you're giving all this information through its backstory, not its actions. So,
Yeah. I mean, that's true.
And if it's TLDR, I mean, and your GM doesn't know about it, they can end up writing scenarios that put your entire character's ethos in an impossible situation, and not like a dramatic one, just one that like you would not do. Like if the Imperium killed your family and the whole campaign is set in, you know, saving the Imperium, like it's not even dramatically interesting. It just doesn't make a lot of sense.
Like, I leave. I blow up the ship.
Yeah.
Full pop-up!
Yeah. So it could be, backstory can be an anchor.
Yeah. I think there's another way, too. Like, some players use it to try and sabotage control, like, to try and take over the game. Like, a lot of times you see the people who are invested enough in their PC to write a backstory like that use it as a sort of a weapon to, like, say, I am the chosen one. There's a prophecy, and I have the...
Yeah, and the Mary Sue and Gary Stu stuff, which I fully admit I fell into a trap early on when I started playing that. Thankfully, it's gone away, but it's hard not to do that, to basically say this happened. Well, and actually, there's a good example of that. When I was first creating up a Robot Assassin, Steel Centurion, I had actually made up this backstory that he had actually been... The armor that was grafted to him was essentially given to him by some rebellion. That's like person of the rebellion on this off-world, which, again, was stupid. Thankfully, Ross talked me out of that one, and I came up with a much better idea of like, oh, wait, it was just grafted onto him as an experiment, and something happened, and he got away. So, but yeah, that's a trap you really don't want to fall into half the time.
I mean, that actually brings up a really good point. One of the other ideas I realized is like I'm preparing to run the games, a couple games online for as part of the Kickstarter support for Base Raiders. You know, people pay; they have their online game, and people were sending me their backstories for the set in Base Raiders, and they always like. There's something I've really noticed about the superhero genre. I don't know, and I'm sure it's been observed before, but like almost everybody in the superhero genre is always a victim of circumstance. Like,
you can't want your power.
Yeah, you can't want your power unless it's like you're just a hardcore natural fanatic like Batman. You don't have powers or whatever. You know, then you don't. You're always destined for it. It's always an accident. You're always a victim. You know, you're just chosen by someone to be the bearer of justice or whatever, the champion of justice. It's just a really, and I mean, I understand that's or you're born an alien or whatever. You know, it's you're the last son of blah blah blah, and your parents are dead, and yeah. So,
but I mean, even Batman could have bootstrapped himself into godhood a million different times, but he doesn't want to. Like, it's a big... You're right. It's a trope I didn't think about before, but the backstories certainly reveal that you can't want to be a superhero.
And for me, like...
Even in New Arcadia, my character was an accident. Tom's was... Well, he didn't want to be a bat. He wanted to be super strong.
Yeah, he wanted to be super strong. It was just a side.
But he still wanted to be a bat. Did Silver Centurion want to be?
Well, mine was a little bit different because Alex was actually very enamored with the idea of the superheroes, and that's like in the golden age that went by when the ideal was gone. And of course, he went to go seek his powers out. That's like intentionally, although he did it in the dumbest way by essentially buying a one-way ticket to Russia and then going through an interdimensional portal.
Yeah. And that was actually...
Jason inherited it. I think the only person who actually wanted superpowers was Drew.
Thad did too.
Oh, Thad did too, yeah. But he didn't want to die.
Yeah, but that's the
thing. Even if you want power, it can't be the power you want it. Like, you can't succeed. If you want a ring of power, you turn into a giant squid. Like, if you want to be a giant squid, you get a ring of power and you're just some dude. Like, it's the law of superheroics, I suppose.
I mean, yeah, so it kind of creates an interesting challenge for me because Base Raiders is a superhero world, but it's a world where everyone has DIY superpowers. It's all do-it-yourself. You can't... The idea is, because for me it's sort of an illogical thing, because like there's one person who wanted to do this online game, and he said, okay, my guy signed up for these medical trials, to test some drug or whatever. All right, fine. It turns out evil secret faceless corporation A was using it to try out this new technology to make super assassins, and he's kind of like Kamen Rider, but he's super badass or whatever. And he fell in love with the head scientist of the lab, and they escaped, and they're on the run. And it's like, I mean, that's kind of a standard superhero thing. You'd hear that in Marvel or DC a lot of times. Not their best comics, but you would see that kind of thing. And for me, it's like, that doesn't, from the point that, what the hell reason would the corporation do that to some random schlub? Like, that's got to cost millions of dollars to turn some guy into a death cyborg that looks like Kamen Rider.
Yeah, and the fact that you have absolutely no guarantee that he's going to follow your directions.
Yeah, what if he's crazy? What if he's a coward? What if he's, not even he doesn't mind killing people?
Their budget ran out at psychological.
Yeah, apparently. You have to get psychological testing at Home Depot. If they have all kinds of that kind of HR stuff. You think they would do that for that? They would at least pay the janitor. Hey, you want a pay raise? There's not a union job, but there's great health benefits. So a lot of these kind of, so that's what I was thinking. So for Base Raiders, one of the challenges is to write in the book hey, your character has to want to have superpowers. You're not a victim of circumstance. You got powers because you chose to get them. Yeah. So that kind of changes the assumptions.
Yeah. And granted, if you want afterwards to become the victim of circumstance,
well, that's fine,
and for things to happen too. Again, like with my character, essentially coming out of a portal 2 years later and then realizing, oh wait, everybody thinks he's dead. Well, time to be a homeless robot, and so.
Yeah. And then there was another guy whose first concept was he was a cop. He fought an evil wizard. The evil wizard killed him with magic. But the magic actually animated his corpse. But it's a demon-possessed corpse. So he woke up in his coffin 3 months later and broke his way out. And for me, it's well, if you're a cop and this is a world of superheroes and magic and shit like that, this stuff is publicly known because cops are shooting evil wizards in the streets. Why wouldn't you just go back to the precinct and say, hey, can I get some deodorant? And, I'm kind of, hey, how you guys doing? Why don't you go back to your own life?
And that's almost verbatim to a Hellboy character's origin as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so,
I think we're being negative about the more end of the backstory spectrum, and I think it can be bad. But as a more end of the backstory person, I say there are definite benefits to it as well. Rather than just all bad stuff. So.
I think the key is understanding what the purpose of a backstory is, which is to help inform your character's motivations and provide the GM with material to improve the campaign.
Well, your key is to make your backstory our backstory, part of a
that's a really good point
collective thing. So and sometimes it can really help games. I was watching Community the other day, and they had a Model UN, and it was a Model UN off. The two Model UNs were competing against each other, and Abed, God love him, our nerd totem animal.
That's the best way I've heard.
Starts off explaining he's well, how are there two UNs? He's I don't know. Are there two Earths? Yeah. In parallel universes? Yeah. And he's okay. Cool. And then they move on. And it's not mentioned again for the rest of the episode, but the Greendale team is losing, and then they burst through the backdrop.
Yeah.
And then Abed says that they dedicated all their nation's resources to breaching the dimensional wall, and they wanted to make a dual world UN to have an even more uniteder nations, and that's how they win it. And that's like the benefit of backstory in gaming. Like, you know it, you may motivate your characters secretly, but otherwise it's not like the focus of anything. But at the right moment, if it comes up, you get good things. So I think the latest new Arcadia episode, the Ludian bluff, where I tell everyone is my slaves and don't worry, just let us pass. Like, I don't think I could have done that without my backstory just laying back there. But I think it was a cool player moment. Yeah,
definitely. And just for those of you who don't listen to the new Arcadia campaign, after the players save the Earth from a giant asteroid being piloted towards Earth by an evil, crazy, bad person who the players blew up, I think, or shot dead. Because they're, authority kind of heroes. And this is a Warren Ellis universe. And
don't screw with us.
I'm not going to lie to you. And so they're on their spaceship on the way back, and they get contacted by the Ludians, the alien empire that, tried to conquer Earth back in the 70s and failed. And said, hey, what's going on, you guys? And then Caleb.
My backstory as I am the product of leftover Ludian technology. And I have like a mind meld with it, so I speak their tongue. So I basically just lied and said, like, these are my useless pawns and Ludian, and we're going off, and don't interrupt my mission or the High Council will know of it.
Yeah.
And I think it was an encounter. You seem to have it kind of planned, and I'm just like, flub, 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 flub. Moving on. But it was cool. But like, more than like random player benefits, I also think it helps you make far more interesting choices as a player to have that backstory and inform you. That's why I kind of like to play people who are suboptimal.
Yeah.
And not just constantly plowing through everything, because, conflict is drama, and sometimes you have to generate some player conflict and not some
It depends
GM
on the type
conflict.
of campaign. Like, in No Evil, I try to optimize my character because I wanted to get through I wanted to see, like, my biggest fear in No Evil is not being able to look under every rock in the campaign and see what you had planned, like, that was my fear. I was like, I want to see what else fucked up thing is here. Oh, yeah. I mean, it was horrible for Bartleby and
pick up the gold
else,
brick.
but, like, I was entertained. So, and we're completionists. We were trying to get...
You totally were completed. Scum's form was supposed to go like 2 seconds.
Yeah. So there's that, and I think that's sort of the idea is like to contribute to the main game. But I mean, for me, my problem a lot of backstories is that there's either too much or too, like, if there's too little, that's fine because you can always generate conflict in the game itself, plot. But if there's too much material, even if it's not like the sort of game stealing, like, chosen one, kind of BS that you get sometimes, like Aaron's talking about, there's just so much material you can't keep track of all of it. Like, Tom in New Arcadia was hard to sometimes, like, he wrote a lot of stuff for his guy, and sometimes it was hard to, like, integrate that into the game, and I could really only do, like, one plot line at a time. He had, like, 2 or, like, 3 plot lines: his dead wife, getting revenge on the Germans, dealing with his son, and then trying to reconnect with his grandson. So, like, there was only so many plot lines I could weave into the camp.
I thought they were good, though. Like,
they were good.
Some good moments in there, and but you couldn't get to everything.
Yeah.
But since you're all negative Nelly on the more plot lines, I'm going to go against not enough backstory.
Oh, really?
Because there's some definite negatives to not enough backstory.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is a thing where Drew's second character for the new Arcadia campaign definitely fell in that. His first one was great. The guy who lied about being in the ideal, like that generated a lot of friction in that.
Which is a 1-sentence backstory.
Yeah.
But it still did fine. But the other guy was, I am other people and stuff.
I am KGB assassin who wants to be a hero for some reason. Like, KGB assassin, not even like I can just change into other people. It's, I am a former murderer for
it's kind of like he just wandered out of Watchmen for some reason and said, hey, guess what, I'm on your team now.
Yeah, exactly. So
and like, I like Drew as a player, but sometimes, like, with the No Evil campaign, I thought Max was good in terms of player conflict. I couldn't tell you with a gun to my head why he was in Firewall.
Yeah.
Why are you a member of this super spy organization. I'll figure it out later. I don't know. I mean, he came in the campaign at a really good time because everyone was freaked out by Cognite, and he decided he worked for them.
Yeah.
And everyone hated and distrusted each other because they thought Bartleby was insane and Cyrock had literally gone mad. So, like, he came in at a good time, and it totally worked. But as the campaign went on, I'm like, why are you throwing your life away to stop this crazy stuff? And I still don't know.
Yeah.
So, like, I think not enough backstory. And, like, I also think not enough backstory is why some one-shots fall apart.
Yeah.
You're pre-gen McStuffy stuff, and you come in there and you do things for reasons that are unbeknownst to everybody.
Well, give me like pre-Jenny stuffy stuff. Like, come on. Well, like, what?
All right, okay.
Yeah, we back up our credentials.
The Long Island game.
Yeah.
When I let people make their dirty world characters.
Okay.
I am a fisherman.
How you doing, Aaron?
You knew full well what the plot was. I am a fisherman. Period.
I tried.
Timely tuna. Okay,
Yeah.
in in hindsight, in retrospect.
Come on.
I have the mic now. Yeah, fuck it.
You have the mic. You explain it.
I'll explain this. No, in retrospect, it probably would have been a better idea to have actually made him maybe
Gangster or what?
or no, actually,
A cop?
Not a cop, but if I wanted to keep the fisherman angle, but put him under like David or somebody else who was obviously part of the crime syndicate, and he was some lower level enforcer. If I wanted to keep it to that,
that was just his day job, his alibi.
yeah, essentially his alibi,
So he's
and
really a gangster disguised as a fisherman.
well, just a mook, really, which would be that somebody who.
A mook is still a gangster.
Okay, yeah, we'll just do that.
They
So
still get that title.
yeah, a gangster too, but also, of course, being a dirty world, actually running the alcoholism angle, especially during
Yeah, he could have
Prohibition.
been a smuggler disguised as a fisherman.
Yeah.
Someone who
But-
smuggled booze in on a boat.
But of
and just
course-
said, I'm a fisherman.
That may have been better in hindsight.
Yeah.
However, I really was since this is a dirty world, and of course this is Caleb about constant internal conflict, I just kind of wanted to input this character who got caught up into it, who was dealing with his own personal demons of trying to salvage his failing marriage and getting over his addiction to the bottle.
When did you tell me all this? Because this is news to me. You were a fisherman.
Alcoholic fisherman.
With secrets. Like, there's secrets, and then there's secrets you keep from God. I mean, like, if you can't hide it from God, then it doesn't count. It doesn't happen.
I think I have my thesis statement for the con side of the less spectrum.
Yeah.
All right. The demands of the four, like the demands of narrative, will intervene, and you will have a backstory. Whether you craft one explicitly or conscientiously or not, are you free to associate random words? And then you become a Mormon polygamous Scientologist, like in The Haunting. And like, I'm not making any of this stuff up. Like, if you let it go without a backstory, you're gonna get one. And occasionally, like when you play long form games in a campaign, you develop a really interesting subplot, like Augustine and Cyrock's relationship, which just developed organically through 20 sessions of the game, which is one of the cooler, more interesting subplots in the game.
Definitely.
And not planned out at all. But then in shorter play, you get just nonsensical, crazy moments. Like Jason won't take off his armor because PTSD means you don't not wear armor. like you get crazy things like that aren't like interesting choices that are just in the way that like it creates drama. It's just inexplicable.
Yeah, that was the thing with Jason. Yeah, or like that's again.
But it got better as the game went on.
I mean, it wasn't with Jason. That's the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. Like, my motivation means I can only act in this way, and I cannot interpret it any possible other way. You know?
Yeah, I don't think that's a too much backstory problem. I think that's a not enough backstory problem. What happened that gave you PTSD?
Yeah,
not like acronym means armor all the time.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like the thing is you can still interpret a PTSD the character who could take the armor off, just then suffer the skill penalties or something like that, or just then starts yelling at people or starts being twitchy or something like that. There are other ways of manifesting it. It's that a lot of players think that like if my PC motivation is this, I have to act like this, no matter just the same approach regardless. And it's like saying that
it's a balancing act between going off the rails of your character's PC.
Well, it's like saying
it's dogmatist.
There's a difference between if you're saying you're a soldier and your only valid tactic is to charge the enemy blindly. Like there might be times when that's a valid choice, when you need to get there as quickly as possible, like if they're stunned by a flashbang or something like that. But that doesn't mean you're a bad soldier if you go around the side or you snipe them or something like that. It just means you're being a soldier differently. And so it's like if you have PTSD, you can manifest that in different ways. I mean, if you that's one of the big things in mental illness in the real world is that it manifests in different ways. So people don't always you can't just that's PTSD. Oh, that's OCD. That's this, that's that, because people act differently. And so
which isn't to say like your character should constantly doing useful, intelligent things. Like I really admire people who say so much in character that they do dumb shit.
Yeah.
Like I really admire the person who fails the perception roll and fails that other perception roll that the GM gives it, and then fails it a third time, and then walks into the dark room by themselves. Like I really admire the person who does not metagame that. There's like, nope, nothing here, and because they're staying in character. So it depends.
Yeah, it depends on the circumstance, but I think a lot of people fall. I mean, I've seen that so many times that like you have to act in this way, especially if you try and dictate. Like another thing I hated in dealing with motivation is how players trying to dictate how other players should act. I know I'm definitely violated this.
Monster mind control.
Yeah. But like, oh no, your guy wouldn't do that, or like, just that kind of that commentary or trying to coaching them in certain ways. I don't know.
I have a huge problem with that. I don't think anybody's uses that. I think of a plan that I think is neat, and I want that to be the plan. So I really need to play the dumb barbarian who's one and intelligent and screams and charges at everything, because I need to get out of my zone in doing that. So, but I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's also good when you need to find that balance where you can mesh. The GM has to mesh his own storyline with the backgrounds of everybody else. Again, pretty successfully, like Caleb did with No Evil, and the fact that everybody's backstory, who really crafted out a primary one, managed to get a lot of the limelight in there too, and even the odd ones like mine. That again, when I created Cyrock, you pretty much was like, "Hey, happy robot who's wanting to be helpful to you," and that's and then
how'd that work out for him?
Hey, pretty damn well, except that my entire program batch is probably deleted now, but we don't want to
spoil the game anyway. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I think that's already happened.
I admire your character, Aaron, because the group developed the majority of the backstory.
And you ran with
the
it too.
shareware thing, the befuddlement algorithms. So if you trust your group to come up with stuff like that, that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, because on the flip side, I think the one mistake is trying to force people to have a certain amount of backstory. Like if you make it homework or something like that, you're not going to get if the players have to want to develop the backstory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
So if it's not enjoyable, if you are not getting anything out of crafting a history for this character, then it's useless. So.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if something in the narrative happens and the GM needs to have pretended your character existed before the first dice hit the table.
Yeah.
And you have come up with nothing, you can't constantly negate what they come up with. Oh, no, my character wouldn't do that. Well, why wouldn't your character do that? What grounds do you have to make that?
True.
Because, if you're going to leave it blank, you can't get angry if someone scribbles in there.
That's it, yeah.
Good point.
I mean, if you think about in a movie, we see the establishing shot, we see a character walking around. We don't know that character's backstory yet. That's gradually introduced to us through the course of the movie. And so what the character does defines that character. And when if you don't have that pre-written backstory, if you have a very minimal one, then that's kind of your actions in the game define your character. And so, yeah, if you're playing a cowardly guy who hides and runs away, and you're like, oh, well, okay, well, you're cringing because everyone calls you, yellow. Like, no, my character is brave and fearless and all these other attributes and blah, blah, blah. Well, you run away every time there's a guy with a knife, you know? We're just going with what you're handing us. So, I mean, if you don't create a backstory, if you don't try and say my guy is like this, you kind of have to go with what you do in the game. And I think one thing we were also talking about early before the show was talking about how game mechanics fall on us. We touched on this a little bit earlier with the Paladin Code of Conduct, which is certainly one of the first attempts at that. Like you lose your paladinhood if you don't do these things.
Yeah.
But games have come along a little since then in terms of game mechanics, and I think Better Angels is a lot about that.
Better Angels and then A Dirty World.
Yeah.
Both really encourage. If not backstory, your character needs a definite motivation.
Yeah.
As a PC. Because you're going to be bashing against each other socially and emotionally.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I don't think it's just that. I mean, I think a game's, other than just like, you can't have your character if you aren't this alignment, which is how it started. I think games are finding a lot of ways to reward backstory.
I think that's not what I do for backstory.
Yeah. If we post something on the forums, you'll reward it explicitly. But like in Eclipse Phase, if you achieve a motivation, you get a moxie point.
Yeah.
If you lose a motivation, you get a hit. In Wild Talents, if you're, what were they originally called? We didn't touch on them much, but your identity and like something.
Passions.
Your passions. Yeah. If your passions get hit, you lose all your willpower. Yeah. But if you protect them, you gain a bunch.
Yeah.
So there's that. The fate system with aspects, like your backstory is the power of your character,
and you need to use that aspect in a negative way to gain those fate points back, so you can charge your abilities.
Exactly, like so you have to have a backstory to play in Fate and in Knights Black's Agents, the recent Gumshoe system. There are things that encourage you to come up with backstory on the fly, like so your preparedness skill. Because it's a thriller. They don't want you to spend out. They don't want you to do it the Caleb route and make a insane convoluted plan. They want you to roll your preparedness skill, and if you make it, you've thought to bring the rocket launcher along. Or there was a tripwire across that hallway you were running down. And so it establishes that. But it's the same thing with contacts, like, oh no, we worked in Helsinki together. And so it's like you said, it reveals backstory through play, even though you do it mechanically, and I would use it to break the game. But and then if you haven't read it, Hillfolk is just improv theater. Like it goes very far into this. So I think more games, as compared to riffs,
the thinking's
are encouraging.
It's about thinking, not about acting.
Are encouraging
or
this style of play mechanically as well as just to tell a good story.
Yeah. So I don't know, Aaron, any thoughts on
that? Nothing else that pretty much Caleb went over on there is that you pretty much that's pretty much a lot of the systems right now that he mentioned right now are mechanically rewarding for that backstory on the fly too. I haven't gotten to read all through Knights Black Agents yet, which I really like to. But yeah, for being able to come up on the spot too, and I like that also. That really encourages player cooperation as well, so you can actually get everybody else into the game and integrate their storylines.
There's actually one thing in Fate, all the versions I've read so far have like. Character creation is done as a group, and you do it in phases. And like in Spirit of the Centuries, like what'd you do in the war, World War I? What'd you do in this? And then like, oh, what about your crossover adventure? Like everyone has to have one section of their character creation is defined by some adventure they had with another PC. So like
with that serialized format, like the old
Base Raiders will definitely have something like that as well. And a Strange Fate has that Kerberos Club.
Well, Dresden, before you even make characters, you have to design and conceptualize an entire city.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how you run a one-shot in Dresden Files. If someone can tell me, send us an email. Because you just have to do this like entire conceptual meeting. And like, it's not like something you can skip. There are serious mechanical benefits and detractors based on where in the city you're from and what your motivations are in there.
Because each part of the city has different aspects. And you can always draw on those aspects if you're in that part of the city.
Exactly. So, a lot of games are focusing far more heavily on this than, say, Even Call of Cthulhu or anything like that.
Yeah, Cthulhu. Yeah, Cthulhu is very because they're trying different things. Cthulhu is obviously trying to emphasize you're in a materialistic universe with nearly omnipotent super aliens that are fucking your shit up. You know, no one cares about your motivations.
Yeah, exactly.
So
you are here to die.
You are here to maybe delay the inevitable. That's the best case scenario.
By your death.
Yeah.
So.
Feed your body into the mill to give it some more grist. All right, so that's the main thing about motivation. It's supposed to help game. A lot of people think of it's not a tool to punish players. Like you need 5 pages of backstory or the next game, or you will be penalized. And it's not something to wrest control of the game or to attack other players with. To try and say, oh, my guy hates orcs. Oh, hi, I know you're an orc barbarian. Well, I guess I'll be poisoning your oatmeal. Like that's one thing about motivations and backstories I hate are characters that always give themselves excuses to be assholes in the game. Like I'm randomly possessed by a demon, or I'm a berserker. Like berserker's the big one. Like, oh, I attack people randomly in battle. If I'm unstoppable, that kind of thing.
Yeah, which is a problem when you have certain players who will want to min max and just create a gigantic.
Well, it's about being disruptive in the group.
Yeah, which is there. Or again, I've probably brought up the example. No names will be mentioned in this one, but there was a game I played a while ago where essentially we were playing 2 vampire characters, and one of the things I did was I essentially slid a note underneath his door, and then we were using vampire at the time, so I used Tenebrous form, I think, or Tenebrous form, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, to basically shadow travel.
Sombra one?
Yeah, it was basically that shadow traveling, it was the shadow power, but I was just using it as an offshoot to travel because I was being a dork. And he became so incensed with his character that he started building up he demanded that the GM allow him to build all these insane defenses in his house so nobody could ever get in. Yeah. And we literally had to go through this insane unlocking process every single time.
Yeah, that's obviously clearly a game of motivation. Oh, my guy's paranoid that somebody's trying to hurt me, so...
But it only came up on the spot, though, just because I wandered through, slid a note, and then disappeared into the ether, so...
Yeah, not a good time. And just so you know, Caleb, in Vampire the Masquerade and Vampire the Requiem, basically vampires have superpowers, but they have silly names. So,
I don't play World of Darkness.
Yet.
I don't play World of Darkness.
Oh, that will make some people sad. But anyways, so yeah, motivation is there to help the game better. I mean, or to make the game better, not to punish or make the game suck. So come up with some motivation, not too much, not too little, and make it appropriate for the game and for the group and for the players too. Because every group has its own different dynamics. So, anyways, any other final thoughts on motivation?
Make characters together if you can.
Yeah,
that helps.
At least talk it out. Like, maybe not have to do all the dice.
One person's not a techno priest and the other guy's Amish. Like,
yeah.
That would be the best sitcom ever.
That would be the best buddy cop movie ever.
But that's the thing. Like, even in a buddy cop movie, if he's near retirement and that guy's a loose cannon, they're both cops.
Yeah.
Like, they can't be too different. It's not like a little girl and a talking dog and a mecha warrior and,
That's just an Alan Moore comic.
Yeah, it can't. Yeah, it's an Alan Moore comic, which don't work anymore. So don't put it in your game.
Alan Moore, don't hate us. We want to like.
And I have a name for that buddy cop movie already: Wi-Fi and the Beard.
Oh my
god. And with that,
that's the next game.
Wi-Fi and the Beard.
Done. All right.
Challenge accepted.
All right. Before we change the show name to Wi-Fi and the Beard, we'll have Shadows and Anecdote. No letter because Tom is gone. And we're back. So, again, no letter, but we'll do another episode after Tom gets back. So, those of you who missed that won't be, hopefully, have to go too long without.
Yeah, the post-Seattle extravaganza.
Yes, I'm sure Tom will be talking all about that. And so anyway, we are first going to do shout outs and just get one out of the way first. I'm going to be talking about a couple of Kickstarters I backed recently. I did three separate listeners have emailed me about this Kickstarter, and others have messaged me about it. I just want to get that way. The World of Cinnabar republished. There has been one that is successful. There's still 5-6 days left, and I have backed it at the
you
PDF.
Son of a bitch.
At the $15.
You doomed us all.
My $15 did not make or break this Kickstarter, sir. I bear no success.
Oh, okay. I want to bring out something first, though, with this, because I'm aware of this Kickstarter, too.
Yeah.
And the fact that this is actually the second variant of this one, because the first one asked how much money?
$55,000.
$55,000.
No one-
And I'm not sure if it's online anymore, but there is an insane list of detailed expenditures.
No, it's still online.
Is it? Yeah, for how
You
for
go
all
to
the
Raven
artwork?
McCracken's profile. Look at him.
Yeah, speaking of Raven McCracken, I'm going to pass the mic over to Caleb now.
All right, here's my theory, and Raven, feel free to correct me on this. My theory is that Raven McCracken did not actually write this version of Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Here's why. He didn't ask for $11 billion to write an RPG PDF. When you click on the photo, it's the best photo in the book. And it's not because you're like, I really want to play that character, or oh, that looks epic. The photo before you click on the video is a raccoon in a wool jumpsuit standing in a pristine meadow with a rocket launcher, checking his watch. The context of the picture alone is just enough to blow your mind. And I've been playing for all of 2 weeks when he showed me Cinnabar. And I looked at that photo in this house and said, that is the greatest RPG picture I have ever seen.
I know.
And when they talk about like all the rewards and like describe the product as like all the 11 billion sun missile damage like they mention the most insane parts of the book. Like I feel like it's
some of the Kickstarter updates that sound like freeform poetry. You're like working on Starship engine upgrades, maybe the proton fusion cannons.
I don't doubt that Raven McCracken is like getting the money, but in terms of like designing the Kickstarter itself, I'm not convinced, because like this seems to be grounded in somewhat reality, whereas the first one was I don't know.
Okay. Now, to explain my motivation to back this project.
He has your address, Ross.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't.
He's about to.
No, he's not, because you only give the address. You're not familiar with the Kickstarter process. They have to do a survey, and then I would have to fill it out and give it. And I'm
Ross,
only
your motivation is RPG hipsterism.
No, it is.
And you need to admit it.
There is. Okay, let me explain the rule.
You liked Cinnabar before it was cool.
I did, you son of a bitch. I did.
Drink that Pabst Blue Ribbon in your Archive Fair t-shirts.
Anyways, I really did. I'd heard about years before I even got a copy of the book. And anyway, the real motivation is that in the greater context of things, in the greater context of the world, the universe, all RPG, the degrees of difference between, say, something like Hillfolk or Night's Black Agents or Fate Core and Cinnabar, these are all imaginary elf games. You're all imaginary elves playing pretend elf games in Elf World land, regardless of what they are. And the degree of difference between Night's Black Agent and Cinnabar versus Night's Black Agents and Shakespeare are pretty different. Like, the Cinnabar and Night's Black Agents or Eclipse Phase are much closer together than Eclipse Phase and Shakespeare. So, like, but for the grace of Cthulhu or of Gygax goes I. And so, because I write and design RPGs, I feel obligated to help someone else who is so enthusiastic about his vision. Like, he is not. Because the thing is, there is worse out there. You see, oh my god, Cinnabar is so bad. No, it is not. It is not, sir, fatal. So for that, he deserves compensation. A subsidy, if you will, to not go the fatal route.
Ross, let's just be honest here. Let's be honest about your motivations. You really want to support the Ed Wood of role-playing games, don't you?
You act as though that is not a noble thing to do,
I didn't say it
sir.
was a noble thing. I just want you to be honest
thing.
about this. So
I ask you, why are you not supporting the Ed Wood? It's not that I am; it's that you aren't.
No, I will say this right now because I looked at the picture of the man himself.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's completely and utterly nice to talk to.
I'm sure
I have
he
nothing
is.
against him, but he is sitting there in a tactical vest, wearing the hairstyle that was out of style when Gary Oldman had it in The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Ross, you've swayed me. I stand corrected and I apologize. You are just helping your fellow artists achieve their goals. So, internet, Kickstarters, send Ross Payton all of your links because he'll support you out of the goodness of his heart. If you have submissions that you would like him to help get, because he's just in it for the industry and you're not Shakespeare either. So he'll accept submissions at the RPPR mailing list and he'll read and
if you are in it as long as Raven McCracken. If you have the...
wait, other people don't have the cred?
Yeah, they don't. They don't have the perseverance.
They're not industry
It's the
insiders?
perseverance. Once you write a world at Cinnabar, then you can come back and talk to me.
You're so full of shit.
That raccoon is awesome. That's all I
We'll give you that.
Yeah. All right, so that is my justification for it. It only applies to Cinnabar. No other Kickstarters can apply. I check out Kickstarter on a regular basis, so I know about them. So, yeah. Anyway, unless you're hooking me up with free review copies of the game, don't come. So, anyways, next up, Caleb, you had a shout-out.
Yeah, so... this is just like a game you can play with people at your game table if you're killing time or something.
Yeah.
But I heard it on Doug Loves Movies, which is a...
Doug Liv?
Yeah, it's like Doug Loves Movies, or Doug Likes Movies. I can't remember. But Doug Benson, the guy who did Super High Me and that comedian, he gets a bunch of comedians and actors on there in a theater, and they have a live audience. And they spend like an hour and a half talking to him in just rambling, incoherent discourse, but then they play games, and one for prizes. And one of the games is called Title Builder, and it's the only thing that got Sarah and I through Christmas, because it's awesome. So one person says a title, and then it goes to the next person in the group, and that person has to add to that movie title using another movie title by either adding it to the front or the back. So if I start with White Boys Can't Jump, and then it goes over to Aaron, he can say Snow White Boys Can't Jump. And then it goes to Ross, and he has to go Snow White Boys Can't Jumping Jack Flash. And then I have to go Snow White Boys Can't Jumping Jack Flash Gordon. And, it goes on, and the first person who loses the game. As a drinking game, it's fantastic.
It sounds like it.
And I just thought it was really simple and fun to play.
Yeah.
And sorry, Caleb, I'm just happy that there's somebody else in this world who actually knows what the movie Jumping Jack Flash is. So...
I love you, Whoopi.
All right, we'll have to do a game of that next time for the actual play podcast
with the alcohol to see who survives.
Yeah, something like that. We will have to try. Let's see here. Aaron, you had one?
The one I've unfortunately succumbed to the Steam sale this year and getting gifts in addition to buying stuff that I shouldn't have been buying. And one of the things that I went ahead and splurged on, splurge being $1.50, was the Binding of Isaac and the additional DLC of, I believe it's called The Wrath of the Lamb.
Yeah.
I had heard a lot of good things about that. Our friend Vicky was telling me that I had to play it at some point in time.
I played it, yeah.
And essentially...
I haven't tried the DLC yet, though.
All it does is basically add additional items into it, pretty much, and I think it's a couple of the randomizations. But for those of you who have not played it, essentially what it is a old-school Zelda dungeon crawler. They sent one of the rooms basically looks like the old dungeons that you would go through for the first Legend of Zelda, except that it's a very twisted game, and that you're playing
very dark humor.
Yeah,
yes.
you're basically playing this.
Your mother wants to kill you.
Yeah, you're this little boy named Isaac whose mother essentially starts hearing voices from God, i.e., goes insane, and decides to kill you. And you essentially descend into the basement where you have to start fighting your mutated brothers and sisters and all sorts of horrible zombies, and get very disturbing power-ups like your mother's bra, a Pope hat. It can get pretty gross on there. A funny story, Dan from our forums, I actually started playing it, and he came... That's like he came in to ask me a question, and I said, "Hey, have you played The Binding of Isaac?" And he looked once at the screen and said, "Gross," and walked right out. So,
that I can believe.
Yeah,
the movie Rubber can paralyze with fear, with a rage.
Yeah, that's an anecdote we need to say at one point if we haven't told it.
Let's let it will be like the noodle incident from Calvin and Hobbes.
Nobody will ever know.
Yeah, we'll tell you if we see you at Gen Con. We'll tell you if you ask us. But it's not going on the podcast.
Yeah,
it's going to be our secret that we lord over.
Yeah, actually, that's going to be here for it. Yeah, anybody who wants to ask us, we will not say anything online. You have to actually see us in person. You want to come to Springfield and visit us? That's fine. We'll tell you the story then. Buy us dinner. But no, other than that, the game is really great. And I think on Steam right now, I got it on sale again.
Well, the sale's over. But,
it's $1.50. But even so, I think it's only
support the independent.
Yeah, it's indie right now. It's like
they're actually good.
Maybe with that and the soundtrack, it's maybe $3 or $4. So it's completely worth your time.
I won't buy that game because they haven't been doing it long enough.
They
need to fail a little bit more before they get the street cred for me.
Only Cinnabar, because there's only one Ed Wood, there's only one Raven McGrath.
I'm not letting it go.
But no, but again, buy the game, make it worthwhile, guys.
All right. All right, so I have the other Kickstarters that I want to mention that are still going on right now. One is, of course, the Fate Core Kickstarter, where they're updating the rules for the Fate RPG, the people at Evil Hat, Fred Hicks and all them. And it's ridiculous. It's been going on for a month. They have another month to go, and you get ridiculous value for your dollar. You get the print book for $30. You get a quick start print book for $5. They just added that. PDFs for $1. It's a ridiculously good deal, and they have all kinds of expansions, Fate Dice. It's a really
They have a whole month left, and they're at like
250,000 or something.
God damn.
Yeah, no, it's been very popular. People have been wanting that for a while, and Fate rules are pretty awesome. We're gonna have to start playing that quite a bit. And the other one is a video game called Neo-Colonialism with the tagline "Ruin Everything." You play basically a mega. I can't remember if you play a government or a corporation, but your goal in the game is to exploit the third world as much as possible.
Apartheid for the whole family.
No, it's worse than apartheid. It's globalization. Like, build sweatshops, cheat them of their money from the International Monetary Fund. Screw the World Bank over. It's everything horrible about this global economy.
I see why you love it now.
It's all true. It's all based on what's happening right now. Yay! So anyway, it seems it's like $10 to get the game as a download. So sounds definitely fodder for another game. Very economic version of Night's Black Agents, basically. So nice. Minus the vampires. But I really, they're philosophical vampires. You had another one, yeah.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of comics lately.
Yeah.
And I picked up one called Danger Club in trade. That's where I get most of my comics. And I got it because of its similarity to Base Raiders. So it's a lot like the setup for Base Raiders, only it focuses on the sidekicks rather than the DIY humanism thing.
Well, there's none of that.
Yeah, there's none of that. And then, but the sidekicks are out to see what happened to the heroes.
Right.
And
because it turns out one of the heroes went crazy and killed all the others.
Yeah. But
and he's the president of the world.
Whoa. But the art's pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not completely
comics.
Gonzo and like kick-ass
so
or
far.
anything. Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
It's only the first trade. And then I also got Saga by Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
The new one about, the space Romeo and Juliet having a kid.
Space fantasy. It's got a real mix of science.
Yeah, and like the main thing about it is the writing's pretty good because Brian K. Vaughan, but the imagery is just bizarre. It's like Ditko on his highest day. Like it's like New Warriors on acid. It's just out there.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah.
Yeah, like
bad guys with television heads and just
bad guys with television heads and
teenage ghosts.
Whores with legs and heads and no bodies and
Spider Woman.
Spider bounty hunters and wooden spaceships and disemboweled ghosts, and it is nuts to read, but it's really fun. So.
Yeah. And it covers a concept that I don't think it really happens a lot in comics, which is like the young couple with a baby. Like, you don't really see that very much, you know?
Yeah, and it's like Insider.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell he's had young couples. He knows young couples with kids, or he's got a young kid of his own.
Yeah.
Like, it's all about baby.
I mean,
raising.
it's like them and then like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Like, those are the only two couples I can think of with a baby in comics.
Yeah.
So it works really well. Let's see here. Oh, I want to mention this one before I forget. One of our listeners, Max Riders on the forum, who posts a lot of podcasts to the RPPR Community Actual Play podcast, which I don't promote nearly enough, but where I'm actually slowly redesigning all the RPPR sites so they all have sort of a consistent look, and then I'll have a big link to that. Anyways, so our listeners upload their own games and post it to the site, and Max has been doing a lot of it. Anyways, he got published in Chaosium as one of their monographs. It's a collection of scenarios set in North Carolina, and it's called The Phantom of Wilson Creek. So I'll put a link up on that. I think you get that in print and PDF. I can't remember. I think you get both, either one. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, that's really cool, man.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations.
And I think he's going to get some actual plays up on the community AP site. If he hasn't already, I'm horrible at remembering actual facts and details, but I'm sure.
If you stick it out for 15 more years and go crazy, Ross will actually give you money. So look forward to that.
Never gonna because he actually made a thing that was competent and like had a consistent standards.
Oh, really?
So he gets nothing from you.
No, he gets.
He gets his undying respect, which is worthless.
He does a Kickstarter. I'll kick into it. All right.
You heard it.
He does.
He's on the hook now.
Because he's an RPPR listener who posted the Community Act.
Max Rider, never give him a moment's rest. Bother him constantly.
If he has a Kickstarter, I'll plug it. Yeah, sure. Anyway, let's see. You do a Kickstarter there. No. Anyways.
Yeah. Anyway. True. Actually, I have two other ones because I thought of another one here. The first one is it's like going back to AMV Hell, something I have participated in before and hopefully will again. Recently, they have come out with the 6th of their feature-length films. You can actually download it on the site right now through the torrent. Be warned, it is a rough cut that they showed at a con in early October, I think. So the intro is a little bit. It's like a little extended, and if you're not into anime at all, it will be very confusing. So it's usually best to skip over
You're
that.
not into anime and you're downloading AMV Hells.
It has references.
Well, okay.
Things.
To be honest. Even though that I liked anime, the reason I ended up watching it half the time is I really love editing work since I do editing work myself, and it's fun to see just what little bits everybody else puts into their own these little shorts. And I'm hoping to there's another version of it that will be set sometime after January, so hopefully I may get some of my own work in there again. As Ross has been telling me I need to do a couple certain ones that I will not mention.
I've already started on the one we were talking about.
Oh, you have?
I downloaded all those episodes of DBZ and the audio from the YouTube clip in question, and I found a blog post listing all their names. There's 32 names in all.
Okay, so
there's more than 32 Dragon Ball Z characters. So
you're just gonna do that? Okay.
I'm gonna. We could have a race. Do you want to bet on it?
Well,
See
if you want to give me
first?
if you want to give me the DBZ footage, I'll be happy.
I will give you nothing. You will have to.
I will give you.
I do not condone piracy of any sort. I'm not talking. I legitimately acquired these.
You and I are on the same site. God damn it!
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about.
Shut up.
By download, he means purchase legally the entire Dragon Ball Z canon.
Hey, thank you. And use for valid fair use through copyright.
Yeah, it's all
Fair use, bitches.
Yeah, fair use. All right,
motherfucker. But that's one of the ones. Please support them because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of good editing work, and it's again very humorous to watch. Even if you're not into anime specifically, there's just a lot of good.
All right,
editing
you said there
clips.
was one more that you had?
One more. Since Caleb actually reminded me of comics, I would like to give a shout out to the new Hellboy series, Hellboy in Hell. Not only for the fact that it is continuing the main story of Hellboy, who, if spoiler alert right now, if you want to block your ears. As people know, Hellboy actually ended up dying in the last one in the completion of his destiny or whatever by slaying part of the Yogg-Dru Jihad. But he also ended up dying because the witch that I think it was that was summoning it, Nimue. Funny thing, Lady in the Lake.
He's in hell. That's the important thing.
Yeah, basically got pulled down to hell.
And there's hell shenanigans.
Yeah, so basically it's him almost getting to explore his background in the other side of the story. We never got to that.
He really explores the hell out of it.
Yeah. But more importantly, though, that not only is it just going a good story by Mignola, Mike Mignola is doing the artwork himself, which he has not penned a full series again in years. So this is really exciting for people like me who are a big fan of his artwork and love that just kind of blocky German impressionism so that he seems to represent so well. So if you haven't seen it, pick it up. BPRD as well. So
BPRD is just it's been great for a long time.
Yeah, so it's really good art. It's like really good artwork, really good writing, better stuff than honestly you're going to be seeing in Marvel and DC half the time right now, especially with reboots and mind switches and stuff. So. But pick it up, support them, keep it alive.
Where else did some Secret Avenger issues that were pretty good? That was a while.
Yeah, we're not going to do that one. So.
What? They were good.
Yeah, they were not good, but we're not there anymore, are we? No, we're in a world where Doc Ock is in. That's like Spider-Man's body trying to become the better hero.
That's not.
And Peter's going to be coming back in 2 years or so. It's going to be fixed. It's stupid.
Jonathan Hickman's writing Avengers. That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's new. Yeah. So there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fine.
Yeah, anyway. All right, so that's it with shout-outs. We're done with that forever. Caleb. All right, how about some anecdotes?
You didn't persevere enough. You should have stuck with it longer.
It only applies. It's a Raven McGregor rule. Only applies to him.
Raven.
So, you said you had a reason why you don't play World of Darkness.
I do have a reason why I don't.
What
play
is
World
that
of Darkness.
reason?
All right, so as you know, before I started gaming with the RPPR group, I hadn't gamed in like a decade, and the last time I gamed was in high school, and it had been years since I'd played. But in like my senior year of high school, this group of guys that I was in a band with got invited to go play Vampire the Masquerade. And because I didn't know anybody else played, but one of our mutual friends played. So we went over to this place called the Fun Factory, which is what they named their house, and spray painted on the side of it. And it was a bunch of kids from my high school that had not quite dropped out yet, but moved out from their parents and were living independently, Fast Time Ridgemont High style, away from their folks. So we walk in, and there are two people passed out in the living room. There's a game of Smash Brothers on the TV with Kirby fighting Link, or getting ready to fight Link in the Smash Brothers. They're not playing it. They're just sitting there watching it animate. And then, so we sat around for a while, but the guy we were supposed to play with never showed up to his own house, so we left. So 2 weeks later, he apologized, and we were supposed to play again. So I come back, and there's two guys passed out in front of the TV, and Kirby and Link are still getting ready to fight 2 calendar weeks later, as the GameCube is still on. And we start getting ready to play, and so we start rolling up characters, and like I have a deep character concept because I'm artsy.
Yeah,
and I'm deep,
yeah.
And I'm getting ready to write it out. And the guy says that my character is putting all his points into sex magic, and he wears a Hawaiian shirt and all this kind of stuff. And he says, I'm going to go get a drink, and there's a weird smell in the house, so. It's really weird already, and the guys are still passed out, and we can't wake them up. they're not dead, so I stay. With this weird smell, and he goes to get the drink, and then I don't see him again for a half hour, and then my friend gets a call from his girlfriend and leaves, so I'm by myself in the living room with Kirby getting ready to fight Link, and I don't know where the other guy has gone. So I leave. And then a week later, the house blows up because they were cooking meth in the basement. So that was my experience with World of Darkness. The one World of Darkness player I've met other than people in this group was a meth-addicted psychopath who couldn't finish a game of Smash Brothers and put all his points into sex magic. And so that was my impression of people who played Vampire the Masquerade for the longest time. And I didn't even know that LARPing existed at that point. So I stayed away from World of Darkness and New World of Darkness games. I recognize it's a stereotype now. And I'm over it, but I'm still gonna abstain.
Okay, Caleb, I suddenly have come to a realization now that the reason why you're drawn to a dirty world is because somehow you have lived it prior to meeting us. I'm just curious.
You live in Missouri too, Aaron.
Okay, but let's...
This isn't fucking Narnia I'm talking about here. Like, we could walk down the street and find a place quite similar.
Next door.
Yeah.
No, you're probably right about that. But granted, no. But I admit, though, that my life as an introvert has closed my eyes to many things, but you seem to have just dived headlong into it. Sorry, the fact that you tried to actually do a pen and paper RPG in an obvious crack house is amazing to me.
Was it an obvious crack house? When they first moved there, it was just a place without parents that you could hang out. We had band practice in the basement where they cooked meth.
I'm sorry. Okay, let's look at this right now.
I don't know. There were closed doors.
It was spray-painted Fun Factory.
Unlike the side, it wasn't visible from
There
the
was
road.
a living corpse trying to play Super Smash Brothers.
2 of them.
I'm just like, you look down at Raymond McCracken and his perseverance, Caleb, but you persevered through that and the haunting before becoming a great game master and player.
Well, thank you. The haunting was about the last time. Yeah. Like, I came very close to the edge of just saying never.
But yeah, you stuck it through, and look at where you are now with your own. Where would the people of the internet be without no evil? So
looking up cats.
Yes.
Yeah. That's unless the darkness that you provide exists, it will be just a cat-filled world.
That's the internet. Pretty much darkness and cats. Next episode on Wi-Fi and the Beard: Darkness and Cats.
I quit this podcast.
And we'll see you guys next time. This is RPPR episode 82. Back that story up. See you next time.
Bye.